Welcome back, everyone. I'm Jason Jensen, and you're watching Jason Jensen Trains. Recently, I flew to visit a very famous layout called the Franklin in South Manchester, built by master craftsman George Sellios. If you're new to the hobby and are unfamiliar with this layout, it is HO scale, and simply do a Google search and you will find hundreds and hundreds of photos on it and hundreds of videos. And again, it's called the Franklin in South Manchester. After visiting that layout, I was so inspired. I came home and did this drawing right here. The stone structure and the brick structure are white metal castings from railroadkits.com. The wood structure is from Foscale Models, and it is one of their kit of the month. I added a second story to it using wood from Northeastern Scale Lumber, and the shingles on both structures and any of the corrugated metal that I'll be putting on it is from kcworkshop.com. We'll be adding a concrete foundation made of styrofoam, and on this side we'll be scratch building a wood loading dock. And I'm using castings from a box of castings that I have that are just from all over the place. We'll also be using some different sized straws, just regular drinking straws for smokestacks. So let's head over to the workbench and get started on this. So we need to make this building right here into a two-story building. So we need to cut sections, wall sections, for the top half. So I've already cut my pieces, and so I'll put my bracing on the back side going the full length of the walls. So I've got my walls all stained. I painted the back of them with just a brown. And the front is stained with zinc and burnt umber, and it's more zinc, more of the gray than the brown, and I added a lot of water to it. I then painted my windows to match the walls. I then mixed burnt umber and raw or burnt sienna. I mixed them together, and then with a sponge dabbed on the color onto the windows and to all of my trim pieces. Next, I'll get my windows put in. I'll show you quick what it's going to look like. I'll get these glued in place, and then I'll put the clear acetate on the back and some window shades, and then we can start to assemble the walls. So I've got all the walls glued together. The windows are all in. I even did some quick weathering with some pastel chalks. But we'll do more after it's all assembled and put together. So it's the next day, and I've gotten some work done at night. So let me give you a little update. The shingles are from kcworkshop.com. And the smokestack here is a very thin straw. And the smokestack came in the kit. The corrugated paper is from KC Workshop. And I have a video on my YouTube channel showing how I rusted corrugated paper. Next, I've taken a piece of blue foam and cut a foundation for it. And just weathered it with some pastel chalks. Next, I'll glue the structure on there, and then get our doors put in place. So to glue the structure onto the styrofoam, I'm using liquid nails. So I'm building my little loading dock for the front. And the first thing I did was drew a pattern. So this is the size that I want it. I then laid my strip wood on here and cut it all to length. I then flipped it over and I'm assembling it upside down. And yes, I should have stained my wood first, but after it is completely dry, I will stain it. So, and all I did for the tape is ripped a piece off, rolled the ends, stuck it down so that it's sticky side up, and then just put it all together on here. So our doors are completely finished. And our little loading dock is finished. We'll get that glued on. Next, I am building, I popped out the window on the side because I forgot that I am putting a little building on the side of it. And so I just took some cardboard. It's actually cardboard from a fruit snack box. And then took some strip wood and sort of braced it, and then I spray painted it. And I actually spray painted it with a primer, and it is a really dark gray. And then I painted the window to match the siding. I didn't want it to be dark brown on here, so we'll get that glued in. I'll put a window shade in it. And then we'll put some strip wood around it and a roof and glue it on. So I just finished painting some individual stones, and I mixed neutral gray and light taupe. Now I'm going to mix neutral gray with Mississippi mud and paint some individual stones a brownish tone. Then I'm going to put a black wash, a very thin black wash, over the walls again, and then I will dry brush with slate gray. So again, we're using neutral gray and Mississippi mud. And it's probably about 50-50. Yeah, so I mixed 50-50. And now we'll just start to randomly paint some stones. Then I will wipe most of the paint off of my excuse me, paper towel, and we'll just dab some of that color very lightly onto some of the other stones. Just to kind of blend it all together. Now we're going to create a black wash. So I just put a little bit of black on my palette, and I'm just putting some water, almost filling it all the way. I don't know if that's going to be enough. Okay, so we're just going to test it. Okay. Now we're going to wipe the face of the stone off. And we'll let that sit and dry. I may have to mix some more. Making sure that we're getting it in all of the cracks. Okay. Now we'll let these dry. And again, we don't want to blow dry them. We just want to let them dry naturally so that the water doesn't evaporate so fast that the paint has a chance to soak into all the cracks and just dry there. So we'll let these dry, and it's probably going to take maybe an hour, and then we'll come back and do some dry brushing on them. So I'm going to paint all of my windows and doors to look like wood, and then the big doors I'm going to sponge on some green. So I'm going to make the big doors match these green doors, and probably the wood windows I'll try to match this wood color. So as you can see, I have painted all of the wood parts. That gave the walls a chance to dry. Now I am dry brushing over the stone walls. And I have one finished, and I am just using slate gray. And I'm not using much at all. I'm really wiping almost all of it off of the brush, and then just scrubbing over the wall. I don't know if you're able to see. Just bringing up, just giving it highlights. And that is done. Now we're going to paint the big doors. We have 4 of them. And we'll paint this one also. We're going to be using Sea Breeze and Light Avocado. That's for the inner part. The trim will all be a dark green, and that's English ivy green. And first we're going to start by applying it with a sponge. We want it to look like the paint is chipping off. I'm going to use a brush on the upper part because I want that to be more solid. I want all of the paint chipping towards the bottom of the doors. Okay, now we'll use our brush. This is a number 5 brush. And we're just painting, we're kind of dry brushing. We don't want it to go into the cracks. We want all that detail to show. That noise you hear in the background, if you hear it, is my air conditioner running. Sorry about that. Summer is finally here. Felt like it took quite a while to get here. Okay. Now we're going to go in with our dark green. And we don't want to paint it solid because we want it to look like it's also chipping off. We're definitely going a little heavier towards the top of the door. And then towards the bottom, we'll just kind of dab it. Next, I'm using burnt umber and painting some of the little details on the door. We have some little hinges. You always have to make sure you check it from all angles to make sure you got it all. Because when you go to photograph it, it will definitely show up if you missed a spot. So I made up a very thin wash and painted the edges of the boards, some lines, just added a little value to it. Next, what we have to do is inside of the windows there is a window frame. So I forgot to do it. I should have painted it when I painted the windows, but I'll have to mix that color again so that it looks like wood framing the window. Then I also, on the top here, I took a Dremel tool and carved that out a little bit, but you could take a round file like this one and file that so that it's nice and smooth, so that those so that the windows will pop right in there. I have taken a piece of cardboard and painted it to match my window frames. Then I cut out that shape and then I will glue that on the top of the windows. And I don't know, I just did that to create a little different look, something that's just different than what you normally see. So I will put that on the top of every single window to fill that in. So I glued all of my doors and windows in place using Loctite super glue. Now I know a lot of people get nervous about using super glue. Your hands stick to everything and it can sometimes be tricky. The best way that I've learned to get super glue off of your fingers is to take a piece of sandpaper, and I have super glue on my fingertips. Gone. Takes it right off. Okay, next we're going to paint our brick. We're going to use burnt umber, raw sienna, brick red, tangerine, and burnt sienna. So we're going to start with the tangerine. And we're just dabbing it on. Okay, next we'll use raw sienna. And we'll do the same thing. Next we'll use burnt sienna. Then we'll use brick red. Now we're going to use a smaller brush and paint some individual bricks. Next, we're going to make a thin black wash. Okay, now we'll let that sit and dry, and then we'll come back in and add some gray mortar to it. Next, we're going to use joint compound. So I'm just going to use a container. It's dirty, but it's completely dry. So then we're going to grab neutral gray. Okay, now we want to work really fast because with the acrylic paint, it is going to dry really fast. Just dipping my finger in water. I'm going in with a small brush and cleaning out some of the details like this wall vent. And then cleaning out some of the areas, making it look like maybe the mortar has completely come out. If there's areas that you think are a little too white or too gray, just Just kind of scrub over it with your brush. So it's probably hard to tell, but there's a lot of variation in the brick. So I finished painting the details. And next I'm going to board up the windows. I'm going to do it board by board and stain them different colors so that you can really tell there's individual boards in there. But there's really nice detail on these parts. You can see the hinges, the door handle. Very nice. So I'm making a couple of the windows boarded up. So I first laid it on there and traced it. I then drew a rectangle around it, and then with some different colored stained wood I glued on some strips. Next, we will take some green. I'm going to use light avocado. Okay. And there is our boarded up window. So both are done. And now we'll just cut these out. I'm just using Loctite super glue. I do like to dab it a little bit just so that it's not so thick that when I put those boards on there that it doesn't ooze out on the front side of it. So we're just kind of spreading it out a little bit. Okay, I will hold this up so you can see it. And then again, if you have some super glue on your fingers, okay, all done. So I have my walls all glued together, and as you can see, I cut some cardboard to fill in that space just to kind of support those top walls because they're kind of heavy. And then I put little corner blocks in so I'll show you quick. I just cut a base, will be the foundation, I'm building another structure that sits on this end, and then this, let's see, that goes like that. So as you can see from the drawing, we need to make a structure that fits on this end. Right here. So I made one out of cardboard. Put some bracing in it. I have an extra window from the stone kit. We'll put that in right there like that. It'll go right on the end. So next I'll spray paint this black and then put some strip wood on it, just like we did on this one. So next we're going to paint our concrete base, our foundation. So I'm using slate gray and light taupe. I think I will use a little bit of this desert sand. It's getting pretty dried up, but it's okay. Okay, I think that's a good aged concrete color. Okay, we'll let this sit and dry and then weather it with some pastel chalks and put our structure on it. Now what I'm doing is going to make a divider for the inside. So I measured from this corner diagonally to this corner. So that gave me the correct length. Then the height is just to the top of the wall. So you cut two of those, same size, two pieces. Then take your knife, somewhere in the middle, cut all the way through both pieces, just from the center out to the edge. Now you have two pieces that are cut. Flip one upside down. And now you have a divider. I do that with most of my buildings just so that you can't see all the way through it. Next, I have made a roof. So it's just cardboard from a fruit snack box. And you can see I put some 1/8 inch thick strip wood on it just to help support it. And then I made this little top just out of some scrap parts from my scrap box. Again, just regular cardboard, and just put some bracing under it. glued shingles on. Added some dirt and value just with pastel chalks by just brushing it on. Then I dry brushed it with a really light gray. It is pale gray. So I just dry brushed over all the shingles. Then on this side, made another roof and put black tar paper on it. So we will get all of this glued together, and then we still have a lot more to do on it. So I'm going to try to zoom out so that you can see the whole building. So this is how it'll be, and I'll show you the drawing again. So there'll be a pipe between the two buildings, and then a little structure in the center that connects the two. Next, I'm preparing my shingles for the main building. And all I'm doing is brushing over some pastel chalks and then brushing it on, going in one direction. I then took two different shades of brown. It's just a regular colored pencil. And lightly drag it over it. It's creating little lines, but go very soft. In case I didn't mention it before, the shingles are from kcworkshop.com. They come a plain light brown color, and then I weather mine before I cut them. I think this gives it more of a natural look. You can buy some that are already, that have a pattern printed on them, but I like the look of this because it's more, it gives it more of a natural look. It's more unique. So next we're going to add a smokestack, and I'm just using a black drinking straw that I actually got from Burger King, and I cut some tape and wrapped it around probably 3 or 4 times to give it some thickness, and then put a dab of super glue on the very end so that, to make sure that it doesn't come off. We are almost done with the structure. It took me probably 3
3 or 4 hours maybe to do the staircase and the railings. It's all done with strip wood from Northeastern Scale Lumber. Here is the wood I use for the staircase, and some very fine pieces for the railings. Next, we have to connect the two structures. So this one goes like this, and there's a little structure right here that connects the two, and then there's a pipe that goes from a window on this side over to a window on this side. And I will show you. I wanted to show you quick. I'm working on this little structure here in the center that connects the two buildings. So here it is so far, and I've stained it to match this building, and I had to cut a little section out of it because there's a raised vent right on the side of that wall. I'll show you. So that will fit just like that. And you'll see there's a stone foundation, and I'm going to put a stone foundation underneath this little structure, and I'm carving it out of 1/8 inch thick strip wood. I don't know if you can see that. And then that'll just sit on there like that. And I'll carve it to go for the entire base of this. And then we'll get that glued in place, and then we'll put a roof, a flat roof with black tar paper just like this. For the stone, I first painted it a neutral gray. Next, I'm using slate gray, and I'm going to use a sponge to apply the paint. And then we'll go over this with some pastel chalks after this dries. So that will be the foundation on this side of it. Now I could have cut a blue, I could have used my blue styrofoam and just cut a square that this glues on, but I don't know, I just had the 1/8 inch thick strip wood is the correct thickness, and I just had this piece handy, so I'm just using this. But you could also carve it out of foam too. So I've attached our little structure there, and I glued it using Loctite. Let me see if I can give you a closer look. Okay, so all we have left to do is put a pipe going straight across. I'm using a drinking straw from Burger King. Hopefully my measurement is correct. Yes. So I've taken some brown construction paper and glued it in place after cutting a little circle for the straw to go in there. Same on this. Now we'll paint the straw and put these two together. Well, I've got the pipe glued in place, and I just cut a strip, some thin strips of blue tape, and wrapped it around the straw. And next I'll paint that and the model will be finished. Added some very small details. I added some pigeons. And there's one up on the pipe and a few on the roof. I did add some little signs here and there. So I am very happy with the way this turned out.
I had so much fun with this build. I was so inspired after seeing the Franklin and South Manchester layout. I have studied that layout for years. I have tried to collect every magazine that it's ever been published in. I've tried to watch every video on that layout. And I will tell you, the pictures and video do not do it justice. It is just incredible to see that layout in person. I am so impressed with his artistic creativity with that layout. Just incredible. It was incredible to see his attention to detail and attention to weathering and structure building. But really what it comes down to is his creativity with that layout. Just incredible. So if you get a chance to see it in person, you definitely should. But like I said, just do a Google search and you will find thousands of images and tons of videos. So, well, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Give me a thumbs up and please subscribe to the channel. And until next time, happy modeling, everyone.